I don't know much about Tekken or 3D fighters at all. I played Tekken 7 like 5 years ago for a month when it was the flavor of the month in my friend group. And after they all went back to League of Legends, I thought, hey, like I kind of enjoyed that. Like this might be something I want to pursue. So I did for a couple of weeks. And I wanted to go to a local at the end of the month. So I registered, I signed up for Tekken 7. But when I showed up, I was the only person that signed up for Tekken 7. And everybody else was playing Street Fighter 5. So I started playing Street Fighter 5 with them, and the rest is kind of history. That's kind of how the whole channel was born and how I started my fighting game career, if you will. That's all to say, I may not have the same connection to the Tekken series that you all do. I mean, I don't have the same connection that you all do, that you probably built up over the past 2 decades. But I do have my own little stories I want to share with you about these 3 very special characters that I'm thinking of playing in Tekken 8. When I think Tekken, I think of Bryan Fury, which is odd, not Kazuya or Heihachi or any of the headliners. Bryan, really? But there's a reason for that. It's all because of Aris, because of avoiding the puddle. You see, when I was really trying to learn the basics, I found his Tekken 7 tutorial playlist, and I just started watching it. Sometimes I'd get overwhelmed, but I'd always be entertained. That's why I still watch him 5 years later, even though I don't play Tekken 7. But one night, I remember stumbling upon an old video from 2017 where he's in training mode, he's got Bryan Fury selected, and he's taunting a robot. At this point, I haven't run into Bryan ever. I didn't know anything about him, and my first experience is seeing him do a little jig in front of a crouching bot. And I thought, what a silly little guy. I thought he was a joke character. And then I heard Aris say something like, oh, I can't do taunt jet upper. And the title of the video, of course, is How Hard is Aris's First Taunt Jet Upper? About 37 minutes. I thought, it takes me 37 minutes to do anything in this game. But if it takes the guy making the guides 37 minutes, this must be something incredible. I think I'll stick around. The video is 10 minutes, so for about 9 minutes and 55 seconds, you're watching Bryan do a little dance. And then at about, I'd say the 10:02 mark, you see someone pop up in the chat named JimmyJTran. He says 2 lines of text, and then he says, that's all I know. And Aris says something like, that's all I needed to hear. And then hits it.
Oh, Jimmy J!
After 37 minutes, he hits it within 2 tries of getting some simple advice. So of course, me not knowing anything about this game, sees this and immediately goes into training mode and tries hitting a taunt jet upper for like an hour. And then I try hitting like taunt back 4 for another hour, unsuccessfully, as expected. Then after that failed expedition, I think back to the video, and I'm like, who was the mystery man? Who was that JimmyJTran? So I do some detective work, which just consists of typing his name in the YouTube search bar, and I see all of these replays under big stages, under bigger lights. And I watch his E-League 2018 run, the whole like hour-long VOD, and the VOD is so scuffed that like halfway through it resets to the beginning, and I didn't even realize it. So I watched the same thing twice. Then all 28 minutes of him soloing P-Ling's team at Strong Style. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. I didn't even know there was like tournaments this big. I was just watching it in complete awe of what not only Bryan is capable of, but what Jimmy J is doing to these poor people. You know, I found some inspiration there, and I started playing Bryan. I ran with it. I tried learning the character, which was obviously a fruitless effort because I didn't know about the game itself yet. So like I could do the combos and execute like some cool stuff, but I had no idea how to play neutral or what frame data was or anything. And I didn't really stick to Tekken long enough to play Bryan. But I did stick around long enough to be a huge fan of JimmyJTran and watch anything with his name on it moving forward. Even though I didn't play the game anymore, I still watched anything I could find of him because I thought he was just such a great player, and his gameplay just, you could tell it was him playing the character. Even if the nameplates were off, even if there was no commentary, even if there was nothing, you knew it was him playing Bryan, and it was really cool. So now that there's a whole new game, it might be time to like revisit an old friend, I guess. That's kind of how I feel about Bryan. I think everybody has a story similar to mine when it comes to why I tried playing Nina in Tekken 7. I simply wanted to beat my friends. One fateful night, after everybody had gotten off and went to bed, I hopped into a casual match on some random character I can't even remember at this point. But what I do remember is the trauma that was afflicted on me. You see, I matched with my very first Nina, and this player I got pretty deep into like the customization options. So his character was in like the bodysuit and he had the headband, but most importantly, on his hip was a revolver and on his back was a katana. And every time I tried to approach, he would pull the revolver out and like start loading it and start doing the loading animation, which I got scared by. So I started walking back and he let that bullet loose straight across the stage into my poor character, and it did like some ridiculous amount of damage, like half my HP. To this day, I don't know if that item is an unblockable or I just wasn't blocking, but it did like half of my HP. But that's only half of the story, because when I started to walk up on him, I had no idea how to like move around the stage. I would just literally walk at him. He couldn't load the revolver in time, so he'd pull out another item, which was a sword, and he would chop me, brother. He would cut me down. Needless to say, I thought Nina was the coolest character I'd ever seen by the end of that game. She's an assassin with a revolver and a katana, and I'm like a closeted weeb. I don't really want to admit it, but I will for the sake of this video. I thought that this was like the perfect match for me, and I'm going to try that character. So for no joke, like 45 minutes in training mode, doing all of the commands that I can physically do at the time, I'm trying to get this sword and the gun to come out because I thought it was a special move, not an item. So after failing horribly, I go to Google and I figure out, oh, this is like not a real thing, right? Like this isn't a real thing. He just put that on his character. But at that point, I'd sunk what felt like a lot of time. I know 45 minutes is not a lot of time in retrospect, but at the time, I'm not used to trying this hard in a video game. So I was like, I spent 45 minutes on this character. I might as well figure out some more stuff. And I thought she was cool anyway. So I started playing her against my friends. And guess what? I started winning because I learned about the one jab from JDCR's video. And if I pressed one jab, because it was plus and we didn't know what frame data was, and they try to press against it, of course I would counter hit. So I learned like, I'm going to do 1-1-2, or I'm going to do down forward 1, or I'm going to do like 1-3. Like all of my offense was based on spamming one jab and then doing a follow-up of some sort, which I thought was really cool because I was winning. And then I started watching videos about her, and I can't really remember who said it, but it was something along the lines of the reason Nina is in a wedding dress is because you have to marry this character to really play her. And things like she's a lot of work for very little reward, which ultimately just turned me off from playing the character because I know concept of fighting games or how to learn them, and I thought I was just making a big mistake, I guess. But now, it's like 5 years later, 4 years later, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable in fighting games now that I've sunk all this time into Street Fighter. So I think I have kind of a system on how to learn these games. I don't know if it'll work in Tekken, but we'll have to find out, I guess. June is the only character that I've seen in like story modes, art, and other media about Tekken, but never played a game that she's in. In fact, my only real exposure to her is the gameplay trailer from Tekken 8, and most of the reason I even want to try her is just purely aesthetic, like the rings that come out when she lands a hit, the sound of her moves hitting, the gold like aura to her attacks. It's all very satisfying and like cool to me. Her healing and chip stuff I don't really understand yet, but I'll figure it out when the game comes out. The first time I saw her Tekken 8 model, though, I was like really confused because most of the art and media that I've seen is from her unknown, like evil form. So I thought this June was like a completely different character, but turns out they're like the same character, and there's some story reason for that. Also, the gameplay that I saw of the unknown version of her is has like another character named Angel or something that was a Mishima, or it seemed like she played like a Mishima, and it was like Devil Jin's counterpart. If that character comes back, I will 100% try them because they look really cool. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, let me know who you playing in Tekken 8. Let me know who you think I should play in Tekken 8. And if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. I'll talk to you again real soon.